Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and last night, Halo is dead. Actually, tonight really, but by the time you're watching this video, Halo 3's legacy servers will have already been dead. Now before we continue over here, does that mean you'll never be able to play Halo 3 again? Absolutely not. Microsoft has made Halo the Master Chief Collection. You can play Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, Reach, and ODST. Right now it's 60 frames or 144, whatever your system allows, in HD, Ultra HD, and Super Ultra HD, okay? So don't worry, Halo's not completely dead, but it is in fact an end of an era. Now, one thing to know is, I'm getting old, okay? I won't ever be around here forever in life or on YouTube or in my job or anything. Everything is destined to end. That's the progress of life. That's how things go. You know, nothing lasts forever, and neither should it. We all have good experiences in life, and I think it's at that point where we should just kind of keep it where it's at, okay? We all have fine memories that we grew up with, especially when it comes to gaming. You ask my dad, he grew up playing Super Mario Brothers on, like, the Game Boy in his late 20s, okay? That was a game for him. And if you ask me what I played when I was younger, specifically back in the days before I just turned 18, during my teenage years, during high school, during middle school, was Halo 3. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 was a very interesting time for me back in the day. It was the moment where gamers had a little console blood sports between one another. You were either on Team Xbox 360 or you were on Team PlayStation 3. And no matter what, every online game you connected to, whether it be Call of Duty, whether it be Halo, whether it be Gears of War, whether it be whatever, everyone always did each other's moms for some reason, okay? I know my mom had a train ran on her, apparently, if Xbox Live is to be believed, especially Halo 3. Now, I know people online are interested in buying farts packed in jars, you know, that might age well over a few years, but I'm here to open up a delicious time capsule that'll take you back to a nostalgic time, when I think, in my opinion, there was a golden era of video gaming, alright? Now, Xbox 360 for me was a system that I ended up getting shortly after the launch of Halo 3 back in 2007, back in 2008. To understand, Halo 3 was a massively hyped game, okay? This game sort of changed a lot of things. I would actually say Halo 3 was one of those games where the mainstream was starting to take notice of video gaming as a whole. Before Halo 3's launch, it really felt like video gaming was mostly relegated as a kid's activity. Now, if you look at video gaming, everybody jumps down and everybody enjoys playing a new game every once in a while. Everyone's playing a video game. Me, you, your parents, your grandparents, everyone is into the gaming world these days. But Halo 3 was when that whole, like, schism started to happen, where everybody, even my dad back then, started to ask, "What's this Halo I'm hearing about, son?" And ladies and gentlemen, back then, you would see these ads played on TV. This right now is the Halo 3 Believe ad, and it might be one of the best advertisements ever to play. I have seen this so many times back in the day during G4 TV, back when it was actually on live television. You know, in between episodes of Attack of the Show, X-Play, Code Monkeys, you would start to see this ad everywhere back in the day. I mean, I'm telling you, Halo 3 Believe was a big ad. This was a big little campaign playing around. And every moment towards the time you got to the end, where they were holding Chief up by the neck, he had a plasma grenade ready to go. And of course, you know, Chief survives. Chief survives so hard that you just got to play with him a little bit last month. Now, to understand, even on national television, I keep bringing G4 into this, but they were literally streaming for hours. I was part of this broadcast where they were countdowning Halo 3's launch, going over the history of Halo. You had literal people going into the chat. It was like watching a Twitch live stream, all within national TV. It was actually insane. We were lucky enough to have this. Of course, I never finished this entire broadcast because, you know, bedtime kicked in. I was a lot younger. And if I'm not mistaken, I gotta be really careful because they were showing straight up titty on national TV here. Yeah, G4 TV was a little different back in the day. Very, very objectifying if we're gonna be honest about it. Microsoft has released a special edition, green and gold Halo 3 Xbox 360 in the US for $399. Back before scalpers, huh? This was a really different time, man. I mean, I'm gonna have a lot of fun making this video because it's just a giant nostalgic trip for me. In fact, it was so badass that back in the day, just to get into the Halo 3 beta, they would actually sell you a game called Crackdown, which is an amazing game in its own right. I mean, I've played it on my channel, and I absolutely love it. And I remember people were, like, downloading the Halo 3 beta off of it to the point where, like, there were so many things going. It was so flooded on the server end that I think they extended the beta, like, 4 days so people could just actually play it. And play it indeed. In fact, not just play it, but people were trying to look at things like Master Chief's face. One of the videos back in 2007 that I remember vividly watching on YouTube was this one, where somebody pointed their, like, camera at their television because they didn't have, like, a Dazzle back in the day or a capture card. And using the split screen functionality, because Halo 3 would have split screen functionality, online, which is a feature dying by the day, you could actually see Master Chief's face. This guy would literally light up the plasma pistol so you could see Master Chief's low poly face. And this is like a creepypasta, man. There were creepypastas that spawned out of this face. It is insanity. Then the day came where Halo 3 launched. I remember getting to play it for the first time at a friend's house who actually owned an Xbox 360 in front of like a small 4x3 television. We were just passing the controller around playing the campaign cooperatively. It was actually a month or two after Halo 3 launched that I ended up getting the Xbox 360. I ended up getting it with a lot of games like Mass Effect and Lost Odyssey and whatnot. Now, it was around this time when I ended up getting Halo 3 on the actual Xbox 360. And this is back when the Xbox 360 was like newer. They had like the Blades OG like dashboard. I went in, put in the disc, made an Xbox Live account. I actually made like a free Xbox Live account. I found a trick on YouTube where you could get like 30 days free on your brand new account. And you could do it like 3 times. So I ended up getting 3 months of free Xbox Live, which back in the day when you don't have like an income as an adult, it's the only way to survive on a subscription-based service. Let me tell you. But I ended up getting Halo 3 running, and I played my first few matches online. And I absolutely fell in love. And then, you know, after a while, we ended up getting another Xbox 360 controller, and my little brother was actually playing with me split screen. It was something that we used to do every weekend, because I wasn't allowed to play games on the weekday, because growing up in an Indian household, you're expected to get some good grades. And video games, they don't help you get good grades. So Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I cherished it, okay? It was like a prison guy going out to get like rec work, okay? I was finally excited to come home on Friday and constantly play some Halo 3 online with my little bro amongst all the other games and IPs I grew up with before they got ruined. Like, I got to play Assassin's Creed 2 before it became Assassin's Creed 600-hour journey that you're probably never gonna finish. So last night, obviously, where the crux of this video is, Halo 3 servers are gone down on January 13, 2022. Obviously, all good things come to an end, and servers are never going to stay online forever, especially for games that are that legacy. Halo 3 is an old game, well over 10 years old, and the only reason it probably hasn't been taken down is because of Microsoft Xbox's backwards compatibility that allows you to play older games on the Xbox One and Xbox Series machines. So you could actually, instead of playing Halo Master Chief Collection, just play the OG Halo 3. Now, why would one want to play Halo 3 at 30 frames per second, the resolution of Goatsee's asshole, and frankly an FOV worse than Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach? Honestly, no reason but nostalgia. And I figured for last night I was finally going to get my brother and actually play some Halo 3 online. And we actually sat down, connected 2 controllers, and played like the old days. And frankly, with all the maps finally being free, I was actually able to play some of the big Team Slayer lobbies without feeling like an absolute poor guy. Back in the day, I didn't have the money to buy the $10 map packs, okay? I mean, hey, even according to RB and the Chief, for those of you who are as old as me, remember the days of Xbox 360 Machinima, they had a really good point. Listen to this one.
It's John,
the human that lives here with me.
I see. Do you think the maps were worth $10?
Yeah, who doesn't have $10? I wipe my ass with $10.
That's not what I asked. I asked if you thought that the maps were worth it.
I don't understand the difference.
I'm glad to know that gaming discourse has not changed since 2008, man. If Arbiter could see the monetization of video games now, I think he'd want to die way earlier. I'm actually glad RB is dead. RB didn't live long enough to see the amount of monetization that happens in games like Halo to this day. But, you know, this is a different time, all right? I didn't have the $10 back in the day. I didn't get anything past the heroic map pack until much later. And so I used to play a lot of the social social Slayer stuff. In fact, I got to look at my old profile, and I got to see the fact that I had Recon armor and a few pieces of Elite armor that I actually loved. Recon was like basically the god armor, okay? But if we're talking about customization in video games, this was like the OG armor that every Halo player wanted. And back in the day, it was either Bungie credits your account, or you get like 7 super like hard difficult achievements in Halo 3 ODST and Halo 3, and you just end up getting this coveted armor in some capacity. Now, I had this armor, I played it, I went on the good old-fashioned Xbox 360, I went onto the live, and I had an absolute blast playing with some other players. In fact, the voice chat was absolutely filled up, in that classic crappy voice quality of 2007-2008. And I think most people really enjoyed it, because it was the only time where we were going to get that classic experience before we were blessed with better sound quality and frame rates through Discord and superior hardware.
Anyone vetoes your mom's out?
You know it's a good man. Aw, who did it?
Who did it?
Come on.
Who did it? Who did it?
Come
It's
on.
probably you did. That was last.
I didn't.
And I think it's one thing that it's come to appreciate. This is a nostalgic experience, and it was totally worth reliving just to sort of remind me of an era long gone. Now, this was also another time where, like, me and my brother were doing super cringy shit, like making screenshots. Like, there's actually 3 screenshots that survived the process. One where we were sitting together like the Flamers. I mean, he was a little kid back in the day. I was younger, and it was how me and my brother bonded, okay? Before we grew older, and he's doing his own thing, and I'm doing my own thing, and you know, we're just adults at this point. And there were other images where we pretended to escape from an explosion that we recorded on the map Blackout. And there was one where I glitched up into the high heavens and sniped somebody from down below. We were trying to be real artsy and crafty. I remember when Halo 3 even launched, one of the things that we used to also do was create custom maps and Forge. Something that's not available in Halo Infinite. I mean, honestly, Halo Infinite's kind of a joke compared to like what we got day 1 out of Halo 3. I mean, this was a period where once this game dropped, we were playing the campaign. And I think I made it all the way up to like Savo Highway, which was like the 4th level in the game, just outside the skirts of New Mombasa. And I was playing it cooperatively with my brother. We were just split screening it all the way through. I was Chief, he was Arby, and that was how we had moved on forward. Now, up until this point, Halo 3 for me was never something that I grew up with. Like, I never had an Xbox original, so Halo 1 was something I played shortly before I even touched Halo 3 on an old computer, okay, running the game at like 25 frames per second. In fact, even the Halo multiplayer experience I've had was not the traditional experience that you would have on like Halo 2 Online. I was mostly playing Halo like custom edition with a couple friends over Xfire and like Hamachi Log Me In Pro like land tunneling. So it was a totally different time for us. It was like a totally different era for us to grow up in and experience Halo. So I have a kind of unique experience with the franchise. And it wasn't until Halo 3 that I finally joined the herd and started playing a bunch of online matches. In fact, if I looked at my history, I probably have like 400 social matches, which are matches you have to do if you want to play with a split screen friend. So obviously me and my little brother. I did some ranked matches, but never really stuck around. And then they started to make you buy the DLC, which I wasn't doing. And then I also played a crap ton of custom games. The amount of custom games I remember specifically from like one like summer, like 2 months, where me, my brother, and my 2 cousins from New York were just sitting down playing Halo together. Like, we were just split screening like with each other. It was me and my cousin, the older brothers versus the little brothers. So it was just a whole different era. We also made some maps where we did like a little cuck hut where you basically like jump into and you could like run an infection lobby where basically people had to, like, the zombies had to backstab the survivors. But yeah, it's not exactly a 1v1 game mode. You have to basically have like 8 people against 8 people. It has to be a giant clusterfuck for it to make any sense. But beyond that, with Halo 3 comes one more thing that I feel like can really tie off the entire situation with, the entire story with. For me, reaching the end of this entire era reminded me of one thing for sure. This was a different period in gaming where like every franchise that was coming out, like COD, like Gears, like Halo, they were always trying to give you like that one big juicy campaign, the full-on multiplayer suite, and there was always some sort of co-op or some sort of like survival mode that was always blended in. And it was that era of video gaming where like everyone was trying to like pump in so much content into their title, meaningful content, and basically just draw as many like eyes as they could. And it was at this period that Halo and Call of Duty really became like the juggernauts between each other. But it wasn't just the games that stood out, it was the communities. You had people making commentary videos for the first time. I remember this was an era where Keemstar had his like infamous, Alex moment on Halo 3 on live stream. This is where he'd had the Federation of Asshole Gamers. And this was also the period where like Digital Fear made like Arby and the Chief, and Red versus Blue was a thing. So you had like the first era of like content creators jumping into the party, making content, covering YouTube videos. This was like the start of what everything is now. What you see now started during that era of Halo 3. So to see it all come to an end is actually a bit, it's sad, don't get me wrong, but it's all good memories that are flowing back to me. And I've been part of plenty of games that have had dying like services. For instance, Metal Gear Solid 4 Online was another online service that I enjoyed. And people loved it so much that they actually revived it through private servers. Thankfully, we don't have to do that with Halo 3 because we have MCC, but this is an era where like I've been part of plenty of game terminations, and they always do end up, they usually should have felt bittersweet, but usually I always would end up with these game cancellations, and I always just remember the good times that I really ended up having. So I wanted to take you on this journey with me to really show you what Halo 3 was like, this era back in the day, and just sort of show you that side of gaming, that period of 2007, 2008 gaming that would evolve into this hyper-commercialized, hyper-competitive industry where every game company is at each other's necks, okay? I'm sure for a lot of you kids that are growing up nowadays, like especially younger people who are watching this video, this is your golden age of gaming, okay? You've got free-to-play games everywhere with massive qualities, okay? You've got Call of Duty games, Apex games, you've got Fortnite, you've got everything available at your fingertips, usually for free, connected with tons of friends. But this should be kind of a cool little showcase as to what things were like back during that early era of like multiplayer mass-connected online shooters. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun to make, and it was fun to go down memory lane. It was fun to sort of think about, the history of video gaming, especially the time where I really grew up in, that like teenage, like young adult formative years for me. And now that I'm like 27 years old, looking back at it fondly, it's something that I really wanted to share, and sort of, at least, if anything, I hope you got out of this video was some level of passion from like an old gamer that grew up in that era. Hopefully you understood why this was important to me and why Halo 3 is probably or one of the most important games of gaming history, all right? Especially that era alone, the Halo 3 era, the Call of Duty 4 era, the Modern Warfare 2 era. This was sort of the change and the shift. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.